The security guard's fingers crashed down on the piano keys. Beethoven's Moonlight Sonata exploded through the empty lobby at 2 a.m., not the careful playing of an amateur, but the thundering mastery of a concert virtuoso. Elena Sterling stood frozen in the elevator doorway, her briefcase slipping from her fingers. That piano hadn't been touched in 20 years. Her father's piano, the one he'd forbidden anyone to play. And this man, this black man in a worn security uniform, was playing it like he owned every note Beethoven ever wrote. "Stop," she whispered. He didn't hear her, or maybe he didn't care. Drop your city in the comments. Let's see how far this story travels. The music stopped. Marcus Williams lifted his hands from the keys, his chest heaving. For 3 minutes he had forgotten where he was, forgotten the uniform, forgotten the badge, forgotten the 20 years since he'd last played on a stage that mattered. Then he heard the briefcase hit the marble floor. He turned. A woman stood at the elevator, her face pale under the security lights. Blonde hair pulled back tight. Designer suit. Eyes wide with something between shock and fury. He knew who she was. Everyone in the building knew Elena Sterling. "What the hell do you think you're doing?" Her voice echoed across the empty lobby. Marcus rose slowly from the piano bench, his heart pounding, but his face calm. "I apologize, Miss Sterling. I thought the building was empty." That's not an answer. She walked toward him, her heels striking the marble like hammer blows. "That's my father's piano. No one plays it. No one touches it. Those are the rules." "I know the rules." "Then why did you break them?" Marcus looked at the Steinway, then back at Elena. "Because some rules shouldn't exist." Elena stopped 3 feet from him. Up close, he could see the exhaustion beneath her anger. Red-rimmed eyes. Tension in her jaw. This was a woman running on fumes and fury. "Who are you?" she demanded. "Marcus Williams, night security, 6 months." "I don't mean your name. I mean, who are you?" She gestured at the piano. "Security guards don't play Beethoven like that. That was concert level. That was—" She stopped, shaking her head. "That was impossible." "Clearly not impossible, ma'am. You just heard it." "Don't get smart with me." "I'm not trying to be smart. I'm trying to tell you the truth." Elena stared at him. Marcus held her gaze without flinching. He'd faced harder stares in his life. Creditors, doctors delivering bad news. His daughter's eyes when he couldn't afford her medication. A CEO's anger didn't rank. "You're fired," Elena said. "No, I'm not." Her eyebrows shot up. "Excuse me?" "You won't fire me, Ms. Sterling. You're too curious. Right now you're trying to figure out who I am, where I came from, why I'm working security when I can play like that." Marcus picked up his flashlight from the piano bench. "Fire me, and you'll never get answers." "I can find answers without you." "No, you can't. I made sure of that a long time ago." The statement hung between them. Elena's anger flickered, replaced by something sharper. Interest. "What does that mean?" "It means I used to be someone else, someone who doesn't exist anymore." Marcus started walking toward the lobby's east corridor. "Good night, Ms. Sterling." "I didn't dismiss you." "You don't have to. I have rounds to finish." "Stop." He stopped. "Turn around." He turned. Elena walked closer, studying his face like she was trying to read a code. "My father built this company from nothing. He put that piano in this lobby because he believed music should greet everyone who walked through the door. He's been dead 5 years, and no one, not executives, not artists, not board members, has touched that instrument." "I know." "How do you know?" Marcus was silent. "Answer me." "Because I was there when he put it here." Elena went still. "What?" 30 years ago. I was 22. Your father invited me to the opening of this building. I helped him tune that piano before the ceremony." Marcus's voice was steady, but something moved behind his eyes. He was proud of it. Said it would remind everyone why they came to work. Not for money, but for music. You knew my father. I did. Who were you to him? Marcus looked at her for a long moment. Then he said, Ask me another night, Ms. Sterling. You've had enough shocks for one evening. He walked away before she could respond. Elena didn't sleep that night. She sat in her home office laptop open, searching every combination of Marcus Williams and pianist she could think of. Nothing. The man was a ghost. At 5 a.m. she called her head of HR. Jennifer, I need everything we have on Marcus Williams. Night security. Started 6 months ago. It's 5 in the morning, Ms. Sterling. I know what time it is. Get me that file. By 7 a.m., she had a folder on her desk. 2 pages. Basic background check, employment history, emergency contact. Emergency contact, Maya Williams, daughter. Elena stared at the name. He had a daughter. A single father working night security playing Beethoven at 2 a.m. like his life depended on it. Her phone rang. Richard Drake. She ignored it. That evening, Elena arrived at the building at 10 p.m. She told herself it was to catch up on work. The quarterly reports needed review. The Meridian situation required attention. There were 100 legitimate reasons for the CEO to be in the office late. None of them explained why she took the elevator to the lobby instead of her office. Marcus was there standing by the security desk checking the night's logs. He looked up when the elevator doors opened. Ms. Sterling, 2 nights in a row. I have questions. I assumed you would. Elena walked toward him. You said you knew my father. You said you were there when this building opened. But I've never seen you before, never heard your name. My father never mentioned a Marcus Williams. He wouldn't have. Why not? Marcus sat down his clipboard. Because I wasn't Marcus Williams back then. I was someone else. Someone your father tried very hard to forget. Elena felt a chill run through her. Who? Have you ever heard of the Sterling Scholarship, the one your father established in 1998? Of course, it funded promising young musicians. He ended it after 3 years. He ended it after one student. Me. Elena's breath caught. You were a Sterling scholar. First and last. Your father found me playing in a church basement in Philadelphia when I was 20. He said I had more raw talent than anyone he'd ever heard. He brought me to New York, paid for Juilliard, opened every door in the classical music world. Marcus's voice was flat, reciting facts. For 2 years I was his protege, his discovery, his legacy. What happened? We disagreed. About what? Music, life, everything. Marcus picked up his flashlight. Your father believed classical music should stay in its lane, pure traditional, untouched by the modern world. I believed it should evolve. We were writing a piece together, a piano concerto that blended classical structure with jazz harmonics. He wanted it safe. I wanted it alive. And I told him his vision was dead. Museum music for museum people. Marcus's jaw tightened. He told me I was ungrateful, that I would never perform anywhere that mattered, that he would make sure of it. Elena shook her head. My father wouldn't. Your father did. One phone call to every major concert hall in the country, one word from Robert Sterling, and every door that had opened for me slammed shut. Marcus met her eyes. I was 24 years old, blacklisted from the career I'd spent my whole life building. That's not possible. He was harsh, but he wouldn't destroy someone's career over a disagreement. Ask Margaret Chen. She was there the night it happened. Margaret Chen, the oldest board member, her father's closest friend. Even if that's true, Elena said slowly, that was 30 years ago. Why are you here now? Why work at this building of all places? Because I needed a job. Because this company pays better than most. Because... Marcus stopped. Because what? Because my daughter is sick, Ms. Sterling. Very sick. And I need health insurance that doesn't ask too many questions about pre-existing conditions. The words hit Elena like a physical blow. Your daughter, Maya. You read my file. What's wrong with her? Kidney disease, inherited from her mother. Marcus's voice cracked slightly, the first sign of emotion she'd seen from him. She's been on dialysis for 2 years. She needs a transplant, but the list is long and money is short. How short? The kind of short where you work nights so you can take her to doctors during the day. The kind where you choose between groceries and medication. The kind where... He stopped collecting himself. The kind where you play Beethoven at 2 a.m. because it's the only thing that keeps you from falling apart. Elena was silent. You wanted to know who I am, Ms. Sterling. Now you know. I'm a ghost. A failed musician with a sick daughter and a job cleaning your building. I play your father's piano because it's the only piece of my old life I have left. Marcus started walking away. Now if you'll excuse me, I have floors to check. Wait. He didn't stop. Marcus, wait. Still walking. Elena made a decision. My father was wrong. That stopped him. What he did to you was wrong. The blacklisting the doors he closed, it was petty and cruel and wrong. She took a breath. I can't undo 30 years. But I can. You can't fix this, Ms. Sterling. No one can. I'm not looking for charity or sympathy or some corporate guilt offering. Marcus turned to face her. I'm looking for enough money to keep my daughter alive. That's all. How much? You don't want to know. How much? Marcus was quiet for a moment. $500,000. Surgery, recovery, medications, follow-up care. $500,000 to give my daughter a chance at a normal life. Elena didn't flinch. And you're trying to save that on a security guard salary. I'm trying to survive on a security guard salary. Saving is a fantasy. What if it wasn't? What does that mean? It means my father left a foundation, the Sterling Foundation for Artists in Crisis. It has $30 million in it, untouched for 5 years. Elena stepped closer. I'm the chairperson. I can direct those funds wherever I see fit. Marcus's expression hardened. No. You haven't even heard my proposal. I don't need to. I know what it is. You feel guilty about what your father did, so you want to throw money at me to make yourself feel better. He shook his head. I didn't tell you my story so you could rescue me, Ms. Sterling. I told you because you demanded the truth. Now you have it. This isn't about guilt. This is about what helping the poor black man with the sick daughter, making yourself feel like a good person. Marcus's voice rose for the first time. I've been pitied by experts, Ms. Sterling. You're not even in the top 10. Elena felt her own anger flare. That's not fair. Fair? Marcus laughed bitterly. You want to talk about fair? Fair is my wife dying at 32. Fair is my daughter spending her childhood in hospitals. Fair is watching every dream I ever had turn to ash, while people like you sit in corner offices deciding who deserves help. He pointed at her. You don't get to talk to me about fair. They stood facing each other, both breathing hard. The lobby felt suddenly small. You're right, Elena said finally. I don't know anything about your life. I don't know what it's like to lose a wife or watch a child suffer or work nights to pay medical bills. But I know what it's like to live in my father's shadow, to spend every day trying to prove I deserve my own life. Marcus said nothing. He told me I wasn't good enough too. Did you know that when I was 12 I played piano? I loved it. And he told me I would never be a real musician, so I should focus on business instead. Elena's voice wavered. I closed that piano lid and never opened it again. For 32 years. That's not the same. No, it's not. But it's the same man, the same cruelty, the same belief that only perfection deserves to exist. She took a breath. I'm not offering you charity, Marcus. I'm offering you justice. What my father took from you, I can't give that back. But I can make sure your daughter doesn't pay the price for his sins. Marcus was silent for a long time. I have to think about it, he said finally. Take all the time you need. And I'm not promising anything. I'm not asking you to. He nodded slowly. Then almost reluctantly he said, "There's a recital this Saturday at the Highland Community Center. Maya is performing." "Is that an invitation?" "It's information. Do with it what you want." He walked away, disappearing into the building's shadows. Elena stood alone in the lobby, her father's piano gleaming under the security lights. For the first time in 32 years, she walked over and lifted the lid. The keys were cool under her fingers. She pressed 1. Middle C. The note hung in the air, pure and clear. She closed the lid and walked to the elevator. Thursday, 2 days before Maya's recital. Elena sat in her office reviewing financial reports when her assistant appeared at the door. "Ms. Sterling, Mr. Drake is here. He says it's urgent." "Send him in." Richard Drake entered with his usual confident stride. But something was different today. A sharpness in his eyes, a barely contained smile. "Elena, thank you for seeing me." "What do you want, Richard?" He sat without being invited. "I've been doing some research about our new friend in security." Elena's blood went cold. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Marcus Williams, night shift. Former pianist. Studied under your father before some kind of falling out." Drake crossed his legs casually. "Interesting history. Even more interesting that you've been spending time with him after hours. I have conversations with many employees. At midnight, in the lobby. Alone." Drake's smile widened. "I have security footage, Elena. Very compelling footage. Of what? Me talking to a staff member. Of you opening your father's piano for the first time in decades. Of long, intimate conversations with a man who has every reason to resent this company." Drake leaned forward. "The board will find it very interesting." Elena's hands clenched under her desk. "What do you want, Richard?" "What I've always wanted. What's best for this company." He stood straightening his tie. "Meridian Global is prepared to offer $2 billion for Sterling Music Group. The board votes next week. I suggest you consider your position carefully." "You're threatening me." "I'm advising you. There's a difference." Drake moved toward the door. "By the way, I also discovered something interesting about the Sterling Foundation. Large sums moving around after years of dormancy, directed by the chairperson, that's you, toward causes that seem very personal." Elena said nothing. "Be careful, Elena. Your father's legacy is at stake. It would be a shame if people thought you were squandering it on inappropriate attachments." He left. Elena sat motionless for 5 minutes. Then she picked up her phone and dialed. "Margaret, I need to see you. Tonight. It's about my father, Richard Drake, and a man named Marcus Williams." Chiram, Friday night, 11 p.m. Elena found Marcus in the basement supply room, loading his cart for the night's rounds. "We need to talk." He looked up, reading something in her face. "What happened?" "Richard Drake knows about you. About us. He has footage of our conversations." Marcus's expression didn't change. And he's trying to use it against me. He wants to sell the company to Meridian Global. He's threatening to go to the board." "So let him." "You don't understand. If he exposes our connection, he'll use it to what? Prove that the CEO talked to a security guard." Marcus shook his head. "You're worried about the wrong thing, Ms. Sterling." "Elena." "What?" "Call me Elena. If we're going to be scandalized together, we might as well use first names." For the first time, Marcus almost smiled. "Elena, then. You're worried about optics, about what the board thinks, about your reputation." "Yes. But you're not worried about me, or Maya, or the fact that everything you've offered could disappear if Drake gets his way." Elena stared at him. "Is that what you think?" "That I'm only concerned about myself." I think you're concerned about a lot of things. I'm just not sure I'm one of them. Then you're not paying attention. Elena stepped closer. I talked to Margaret Chen last night. She told me everything. How my father destroyed you. How he spent years making sure you couldn't rebuild your career. How he did it because you had the one thing he couldn't stand, more talent than him. Marcus was silent. He was jealous of you, Marcus. My father, the great Robert Sterling, was jealous of a 24-year-old kid from Philadelphia. And instead of celebrating your gift, he crushed it. Why are you telling me this? Because I'm not him, and I refuse to let his mistakes define what I do next. Elena's voice was firm. Tomorrow is Maya's recital. I'm going to be there, not because I want something from you, because your daughter deserves an audience that appreciates her talent. Elena. And next week when Drake makes his move, I'm going to fight. Not just for the company, for you, for Maya, for every person my father ever stepped on to build his empire. You barely know us. I know enough. She turned to leave, then stopped. One more thing. The foundation grant for Maya's surgery. I'm approving it Monday. Drake can't stop that. No matter what happens to me, your daughter will get her treatment. She walked away before he could respond. Behind her, Marcus stood in the basement supply room, a cleaning cart in front of him, tears he hadn't shed in years finally breaking free. Saturday, Highland Community Center, 3 p.m. Elena arrived early, dressed simply, sitting in the back row of the small recital hall. Around her, working-class families filled the seats. Parents with cameras, grandparents with proud smiles, siblings fidgeting in their chairs. She didn't see Marcus. The recital began. Young musicians took turns, some nervous, some confident, all earnest in their efforts. Elena found herself moved by their dedication, their joy in making music despite imperfect technique. Then the announcer called Maya Williams. A girl walked to the front, 14 years old, thin with her father's gray-green eyes. She carried a cello, nearly as tall as herself. Elena held her breath. Maya sat positioned her bow and began to play Bach's Cello Suite No. 1. The room went silent. This wasn't a student recital performance. This was something else entirely. Mature, nuanced, achingly beautiful. Maya played like someone who understood loss long before she should have had to. Elena felt tears on her cheeks. When Maya finished, the applause was thunderous. Elena clapped until her hands hurt, watching the girl's face light up with joy. Then she saw Marcus. He stood in the side doorway, still in his work clothes, having come straight from whatever day job he worked before his night shift. His eyes were fixed on his daughter, and his face held an expression Elena had never seen before. Pure, uncomplicated love. Maya spotted him and waved. Marcus waved back, his smile breaking through years of weariness. Elena understood something then. Something she'd spent 44 years missing. Music wasn't about perfection. It wasn't about concert halls, or critical acclaim, or artistic legacy. It was about this. A father watching his daughter play a community gathering to celebrate effort over achievement. A girl with a failing kidney playing Bach like her life depended on it. Because maybe it did. After the recital, Elena approached them near the refreshment table. "You came?" Maya said, her face bright. "Dad said you might." "I wouldn't have missed it. You were extraordinary." Maya beamed. Marcus stood beside her, his hand on her shoulder. "Thank you," he said quietly. "For coming. For everything." "Thank me after Monday," Elena replied. "We still have a fight ahead." Elena looked at this man, this ghost, this failed musician, this devoted father who had given up everything for his daughter. She confirmed. Maya glanced between them with teenage perception. "Are you two going to get ice cream or something? Because this feels like an ice cream moment." Marcus and Elena both laughed. The first real laugh either had shared in years. "Ice cream sounds perfect," Elena said. As they walked out together, Maya chattering about her performance, Marcus quiet but present. Elena felt something shift inside her. She didn't know what Monday would bring. Didn't know if she could save her father's company or her own position. Didn't know if the foundation grant would survive Drake's attacks. But she knew one thing with absolute certainty. For the first time in her life, she was exactly where she was supposed to be. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "I know who Marcus Williams really is. And I know what you're planning. The board meets Monday at 9 a.m. Be ready to lose everything." Elena stared at the message, her heart pounding. She looked at Marcus walking ahead with his arm around Maya, both of them laughing at something she'd said. She deleted the text and kept walking. Some fights were worth losing everything for. The ice cream shop was small and crowded, filled with families from the recital. Elena felt eyes on her as she walked in. The designer clothes, the expensive watch, the way she carried herself. She didn't belong here, and everyone knew it. Maya didn't seem to notice. She pulled Elena toward the counter, pointing at flavors with infectious enthusiasm. "You have to try the salted caramel. It's amazing. Dad always gets vanilla because he's boring." "I'm not boring," Marcus said. "I'm consistent." "Same thing." Elena found herself laughing. "I'll try the salted caramel." They found a booth in the corner. Maya slid in first, then Elena with Marcus across from them. The girl attacked her ice cream with the energy of someone who had just performed her heart out on stage. "So," Maya said between bites, "Dad says you run a music company." "I do." "That's cool. Do you work with any famous people?" "A few." "Like who?" "Maya," Marcus warned. "Don't interrogate her." "I'm not interrogating. I'm conversing." Maya turned back to Elena. "Dad never lets me ask questions. He thinks I'm too nosy." "You are too nosy. Curiosity is a sign of intelligence. My teacher said so." Elena smiled. "Your teacher sounds smart." "She is. She's the one who got me into cello. I wanted to play piano like Dad, but she said my fingers were made for strings." Maya held up her hands, showing long, slender fingers. She was right. The cello feels like part of me now. It showed today. Your Bach was exceptional. Maya's face lit up. "You really think so? I messed up the transition in the third movement." "You recovered beautifully. That's what matters." "That's what Dad always says." Elena glanced at Marcus, who was watching the exchange with an unreadable expression. "Your father is a wise man." "He's okay." Maya grinned at him. "When he's not being overprotective." "I'm not overprotective. You made me wear a sweater to the recital. It's 70 degrees outside." "The auditorium was air-conditioned." "I was sweating through my Bach." "And you still played beautifully." Father and daughter smiled at each other, and Elena felt something twist in her chest. This was what she had missed. This easy affection, this gentle teasing, this sense of belonging. Her own father had never looked at her the way Marcus looked at Maya. "Can I ask you something?" Maya said, suddenly turning to Elena. "Of course." "Why are you being nice to us?" The question hung in the air. Marcus shifted uncomfortably, but Maya's eyes were direct, demanding honesty. "What do you mean?" Elena asked. "I mean you're rich. You're important. You could be anywhere right now doing anything, but you're here eating ice cream with a security guard and his sick kid." Maya shrugged. "It doesn't make sense." "Maya," Marcus started. "No, it's a fair question." Elena set down her spoon. "The truth is, I spent most of my life doing what made sense. Going to the right schools, taking the right jobs, saying the right things to the right people. And somewhere along the way, I forgot what actually mattered." "What actually matters?" Elena looked at Marcus, then back at Maya. "This. People. Connection. Music that comes from the heart instead of a business plan." Maya considered this. "That's a good answer. Thank you. But you still didn't explain why us specifically." Maya, that's enough, Marcus said firmly. It's okay, Elena said. She deserves to know. She took a breath. Your father and my father knew each other a long time ago. My father did something terrible to him, something I can't undo, but I can try to make it right. Maya looked at Marcus. Is that true? Marcus was silent for a moment. Then he nodded. It's true. What did he do? That's a conversation for another time. You always say that, and I always mean it. Maya sighed the dramatic sigh of a teenager who knew she wasn't going to win. Fine, but you owe me the whole story eventually. Eventually. They finished their ice cream in comfortable silence. When they stood to leave, Maya surprised Elena with a hug. Thanks for coming to my recital, she said. It meant a lot. Elena hugged her back, breathing in the scent of cheap shampoo and melted ice cream. Thank you for letting me be there. Outside, the afternoon sun was fading. Marcus walked Elena to her car while Maya waited by their old Honda. I meant what I said, Elena told him. About Monday. About the foundation. About all of it. I know you did. Drake is going to come after me hard. He has footage, he has suspicions, and he has the board's ear. What are you going to do? Fight. What else can I do? Marcus studied her face. Why? Why risk everything for people you barely know? I told you. Because it's right. That's not a business answer. Maybe I'm tired of business answers. They stood in silence. Around them, families loaded into cars. Children still chattering about the recital, parents checking phones and calculating dinner plans. Normal life happening all around them. There's something I should tell you, Marcus said finally, about why I was really playing that piano. Elena waited. It wasn't just because I missed music. It wasn't just about the past. He looked toward Maya, who was leaning against the Honda, scrolling through her phone. Her doctor called last week. Her kidney function is declining faster than expected. She needs a transplant within 6 months or... He stopped. Or what? Or the options get very limited. Elena felt cold despite the warm evening air. 6 months. 6 months. And I'm not a match. Neither was Sarah. We've been on the transplant list for 2 years, but the wait is long and getting longer. The foundation grant can help with the surgery costs. It can help with money. It can't help with finding a kidney. Marcus's voice was steady, but Elena could hear the fear beneath it. I was playing that piano because it's the only thing that keeps me from going crazy. From thinking about what happens if we can't find a donor in time. Elena reached out and touched his arm. We'll find one. You can't promise that. No, but I can promise to try. Marcus looked at her hand on his arm, then at her face. Something shifted in his expression. A crack in the wall he'd built around himself. Why? He asked again. Because some things matter more than business, more than reputation, more than whatever game Richard Drake is playing. Elena squeezed his arm gently. Your daughter matters. And me. The question surprised both of them. Marcus looked away, as if embarrassed by his own vulnerability. Elena didn't hesitate. You matter too. She got in her car and drove away before he could respond. In her rearview mirror, she watched him standing in the parking lot watching her go. Sunday arrived gray and heavy. Elena spent the morning on the phone with Margaret Chen, reviewing strategy for Monday's board meeting. The older woman had known Robert Sterling for 40 years, had watched him build his empire and destroy anyone who got in his way. Drake has been planning this for months, Margaret said. Maybe years. He's been meeting with Meridian executives in private, building support on the board, waiting for the right moment to strike. And he thinks this is the right moment. He thinks you're distracted, vulnerable, that this thing with Marcus Williams gives him leverage. There is no thing with Marcus Williams. I believe you, but perception matters. And the footage he has, of me talking to an employee, that's not a scandal. It is if he frames it right. A lonely CEO late nights with a handsome security guard secret foundation grants to his daughter, it writes itself. Elena paced her living room phone pressed to her ear. So what do I do? You get ahead of it. You tell the board about Marcus before Drake does. You frame it as exactly what it is. A charitable gesture from the foundation to a deserving young musician. And if they don't believe me, then you fight. You remind them what this company stands for, what your father built, and why. Margaret paused. Robert was many things, Elena. Not all of them good. But he believed in music. He believed in talent. He would have wanted Maya Williams to get that surgery, regardless of his history with her father. Would he? The Robert I knew in the beginning, before the ego and the jealousy. Yes, he would have. Elena stopped pacing. Margaret, can I ask you something? Of course. Why did you never tell me about Marcus, about what my father did to him? Silence on the line. Margaret. Because Robert asked me not to, and because I was a coward. The older woman's voice was heavy with old guilt. I watched him destroy that young man's career, and I said nothing. Told myself it wasn't my business. Told myself Robert had his reasons. Did he? Fear. That's the only reason. Marcus was better than Robert ever was, and Robert couldn't stand it, so he crushed him instead of celebrating him. That's monstrous. Yes, it was, Margaret sighed. I've carried that shame for 30 years. When you told me about Marcus working in your building playing your father's piano, I thought maybe this was a chance. For both of you. A chance for what? Redemption. Elena was quiet. Be careful tomorrow, Margaret said. Drake is dangerous. He'll use everything he has against you. I know. And Elena, whatever happens, I'm proud of you. Your father would have fought to save the company. You're fighting to save something more important. The call ended. Elena stood in her living room staring at nothing. Then she picked up her keys and drove across town to a modest apartment building in Queens. Marcus answered the door in jeans and a faded Columbia University t-shirt. Behind him, Elena could hear a television playing and the smell of something cooking. Elena, I didn't expect... I need to talk to you, before tomorrow. He stepped aside to let her in. The apartment was small but immaculate. Every surface clean, every item in its place. The home of a man who controlled what he could, because so much was beyond his control. Maya appeared from a hallway. Ms. Sterling, what are you doing here? I came to talk to your dad, is that okay? Maya looked at Marcus, who nodded slightly. I'll be in my room, she said with a pointed look that suggested she expected a full report later. When she was gone, Marcus gestured to the small living room. Sit, please. Elena sat on a worn but comfortable couch. Marcus remained standing. What's wrong? He asked. Tomorrow is going to be ugly. Drake has footage of us talking in the lobby. He's going to present it to the board as evidence of an inappropriate relationship. Is that what it is? You know it's not. Do I? Marcus finally sat across from her. I'm a security guard, Elena. You're a CEO. We've known each other for 2 weeks, and in that time you've offered to fund my daughter's medical care, come to her recital, and driven across town on a Sunday evening to warn me about a board meeting. That's not normal behavior. I don't care about normal. What do you care about? Elena met his eyes. Right now, making sure Maya gets her surgery. Making sure Drake doesn't sell my father's company to the highest bidder. Making sure you don't get caught in the crossfire of a fight that isn't yours. But it is mine. It became mine the moment your father destroyed my career. Marcus leaned forward. You keep talking about redemption, about making things right. But have you asked yourself why this matters so much to you personally? What do you mean? I mean, there are easier ways to assuage guilt. You could have written a check and walked away. Instead, you're here, in my apartment, on a Sunday night, getting ready to risk everything for people you barely know. His voice softened. Why, Elena? She didn't answer immediately. The question forced her to look at something she'd been avoiding. "Because I'm tired," she finally said. "Tired of being what everyone expects. Tired of fighting battles that don't matter. Tired of winning and feeling like I've lost. And we matter. A broke security guard and his sick daughter. Yes." The word came out stronger than she intended. You matter. Not because of what my father did, or what I can do to fix it. Because when I'm with you and Maya, I remember what it feels like to be human instead of a job title. Marcus was quiet for a long moment. "I've been alone a long time," he said slowly. "Since Sarah died, I've kept everyone at a distance. It was easier that way. Safer. I could focus on Maya, on surviving, on getting through each day without falling apart. And now there's you, showing up in my lobby at midnight, asking questions I don't want to answer, making me feel things I thought I'd buried with my wife." Elena's heart was pounding. What kind of things? Hope, connection, the terrifying possibility that life might have more to offer than just surviving. They sat in silence, the weight of unspoken things pressing down on them. "I should go," Elena said finally. "Tomorrow is going to be difficult." "Stay for dinner." "What?" "Maya's making spaghetti. She's actually a decent cook when she tries." Marcus almost smiled. "Stay. Eat with us. Pretend tomorrow doesn't exist for a few hours." "I don't think—" "Please." The single word, so simple, so vulnerable, broke through her defenses. "Okay." Dinner was chaotic and wonderful. Maya talked nonstop about her music teacher, her friends, the boy in her class, who kept trying to carry her cello case, even though she told him she could do it herself. Marcus added dry comments that made both of them laugh. The spaghetti was slightly overcooked, and the sauce was from a jar, and it was the best meal Elena had eaten in years. Afterward, while Maya did homework, Elena helped Marcus wash dishes. "Thank you," she said quietly. "I needed this." "So did we." He handed her a wet plate to dry. "Maya likes you." "I like her. She doesn't let people in easily, not since she got sick. She's learned to keep her guard up, prepare for disappointment." "She's not the only one." Marcus turned to look at her. Water dripped from his hands onto the floor between them. "Elena, don't." She held up a hand. "Whatever you're going to say, don't. Not tonight. Tonight, let's just be two people who ate spaghetti and washed dishes and didn't think about board meetings or medical bills or the 100 reasons why this can't work. Is that what you want, to not think? That's exactly what I want. And tomorrow we fight. Together." She left an hour later, driving through quiet Sunday streets back to her empty house. Her phone buzzed with texts. Jennifer with final preparations for the meeting, Margaret with words of encouragement, an unknown number with another threat she deleted without reading. But she also felt something else, something she hadn't felt in years. Purpose. Monday morning arrived too soon. Elena dressed in her sharpest suit, charcoal gray, perfectly tailored armor for the battle ahead. She arrived at Sterling Music Group at 8:30, 30 minutes before the board meeting was scheduled to begin. Jennifer met her at the elevator. "Drake is already here. He's been meeting with board members since 7. Who? Harrison Polk, the new guy from the hedge fund. The ones who've been pushing for a sale. What about Margaret?" "In your office, waiting for you." Elena found Margaret Chen standing at her window looking out over the city. The older woman turned when she entered. "He's been busy," Margaret said without preamble. "He's got at least 4 votes locked up." "That's not a majority." "It's close. If he can sway 2 more, he won't." "You sound confident." "I am confident." Elena opened her briefcase and pulled out a folder. "Because I have something he doesn't know about." Margaret raised an eyebrow. "What?" "Evidence. Of his meetings with Meridian. Of the deal he's been negotiating behind the board's back." of the kickback he stands to receive if the sale goes through. How did you? I hired a private investigator 6 months ago. When Drake started making noise about my leadership, I knew something was coming. I just didn't know what. Margaret smiled slowly. Robert always said you had the best instincts in the family. Robert said a lot of things. He did. Not all of them true, but that one was. At 9:00 exactly, Elena walked into the boardroom. 12 faces looked up at her. Some supportive, some hostile, most carefully neutral. Richard Drake sat at the far end of the table, a thin smile on his face. Good morning, everyone, Elena said, taking her seat at the head. I understand we have some urgent business to discuss. We do. Drake stood, ever the showman. As you all know, I've expressed concerns about the direction of this company under current leadership. Today, I want to share some information that I believe the board needs to see. He clicked a remote and a screen behind him came to life. Security footage from the lobby. Elena talking to Marcus. Elena at the piano. Elena and Marcus in what looked like an intimate conversation. Over the past 2 weeks, Drake continued, our CEO has been developing what can only be described as an inappropriate relationship with a night security guard. A man who, I might add, has a troubled history with this company and a personal vendetta against the Sterling family. Murmurs around the table. Furthermore, Drake went on, I've discovered that Elena has used her position as chairperson of the Sterling Foundation to direct substantial funds to this man's daughter. $400,000 in medical expenses approved without proper board oversight. That's not true, Elena said calmly. The records speak for themselves. The foundation board approved that grant unanimously. I recused myself from the vote due to potential conflict of interest. Every protocol was followed. Protocols designed to create the appearance of propriety while hiding the reality of favoritism. Elena stood. Since we're sharing information, Richard, perhaps the board would like to see what I've discovered about your activities. Drake's smile flickered. Elena opened her folder and began distributing documents. Meeting logs showing regular contact between Richard Drake and executives from Meridian Global over the past 6 months. Email correspondence discussing the terms of a potential acquisition. And most interestingly, a draft contract guaranteeing Mr. Drake a $15 million consulting fee upon completion of the sale. The room went silent. Richard has been working against this company's interests for months, Elena continued. He's been cultivating board support for a sale that would personally enrich him while destroying everything my father built. And he's using fabricated concerns about my personal life to distract from his own betrayal. Drake's face had gone white. Those documents are authentic, verified by independent investigators. If you'd like to dispute them, I'm happy to provide additional evidence. This is character assassination. This is the truth. Something you seem to have forgotten exists. Margaret Chen stood. I move that Richard Drake be removed from his position as vice president, effective immediately pending a full investigation of his conduct. Seconded, said another board member. All in favor. 7 hands went up, then an 8th, then a 9th. Drake looked around the table, seeing his support crumble. You can't do this. The vote has been taken, Elena said. You're finished, Richard. This isn't over. Yes, it is. Security was called. Drake was escorted from the building, his face a mask of fury and disbelief. Elena watched him go, feeling no satisfaction, only exhaustion and a grim sense of justice. When the room had cleared, Margaret approached her. Well done. I don't feel well done. I feel tired. That's how you know you did it right. Victory should feel heavy, not triumphant. Elena nodded. I need to make a phone call. She walked to her office, closed the door, and dialed Marcus's number. He answered on the second ring. How did it go? Drake is gone. The board voted to remove him. Silence on the line. Then, are you okay? I think so. I don't know. Elena sat down heavily in her chair. It doesn't feel finished. Because it isn't. Drake was just the symptom. The disease is still there. What do you mean? Your father's legacy. The choices he made. The people he hurt. Marcus paused. Including me. I know, and I'm going to spend the rest of my life trying to make that right. You don't have to. I want to. Another pause. Then Marcus said, Maya wants to know if you're coming to her doctor's appointment on Wednesday. Elena blinked. She wants me there. She does, so do I. Then I'll be there. Elena. Yes. Thank you. For fighting. For not giving up. For being someone I didn't expect. Thank you for giving me something worth fighting for. She hung up the phone and sat in silence for a long moment. Outside her window, the city hummed with Monday morning energy. People going to work living their lives unaware of the battles being fought in boardrooms and hearts. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. You think you've won. But the real storm hasn't even started yet. Elena stared at the message. Then she set down her phone and walked to her window. Let it come, she thought. Whatever comes next, let it come. She wasn't afraid anymore. Wednesday came faster than Elena expected. She arrived at Queen's Medical Center at 2:45, 15 minutes before Maya's appointment. Marcus was already there sitting in the waiting room with his daughter, both of them looking at something on Maya's phone and laughing. They looked up when she approached. You came, Maya said, her face brightening. I said I would. Dad said you might be too busy, CEO stuff. Your dad worries too much. Marcus stood, offering Elena his seat. I'll let you two talk. I need to fill out some paperwork. When he was gone, Maya turned to Elena with that direct gaze she was beginning to recognize. He likes you, you know. We're friends. That's not what I mean. Maya lowered her voice. He hasn't liked anyone since Mom died, not like this. I can tell by the way he looks at you. Maya. I'm not saying you have to do anything about it. I'm just saying if you hurt him, I'll never forgive you. The girl's eyes were serious. He's been through enough. Elena felt the weight of that statement. I don't intend to hurt him. Good. Maya's expression softened. Because I like you too, and I don't like very many people. I'm honored. You should be. I'm very selective. They were both smiling when Marcus returned. What are you two conspiring about? Nothing, Maya said innocently. Girl stuff. That's what worries me. A nurse appeared at the door. Maya Williams. The three of them followed her down a hallway to an examination room. Maya hopped onto the table with the practiced ease of someone who had spent too much time in hospitals. Marcus took the chair in the corner, his body tense with barely concealed anxiety. Elena stood near the door, uncertain of her place in this intimate family moment. Dr. Patterson arrived 10 minutes later, a tall woman in her 50s with kind eyes and an efficient manner. She greeted Maya warmly, nodded to Marcus, and raised an eyebrow at Elena. This is Elena Sterling, Marcus said. A friend of the family. Nice to meet you. Dr. Patterson turned to Maya. How are you feeling, sweetheart? Fine. A little tired sometimes, but mostly fine. Any pain, swelling, changes in your appetite? No. Well, maybe a little less hungry than usual, but I've been busy with school and music. Dr. Patterson nodded, making notes. I have your latest lab results. Let's talk about what they show. The doctor pulled up charts on her tablet, explaining numbers and trends that Elena only partially understood. But she understood Marcus's face as he listened. She understood the way his hands gripped the arms of his chair, the way his jaw tightened with each piece of information. The bottom line, Dr. Patterson said finally, is that Maya's kidney function has declined more rapidly than we anticipated. 3 months ago, she was at 32%. Now, she's at 23%. What does that mean? Maya asked. It means we need to move faster on the transplant. I'm recommending we escalate her status on the waiting list. How much faster? Marcus's voice was steady, but Elena could hear the fear beneath it. I'd like to see her in surgery within 3 months, 4 at the outside. 3 months. Elena did the math. That was August. Maya would be starting high school in September if everything went well. If. What happens if we don't find a donor in time? Maya asked the question no one else would. Dr. Patterson paused, choosing her words carefully. Let's focus on finding a donor. There are options we haven't fully explored yet. Living donors, for example. Have you considered expanding the family search? There is no family, Marcus said quietly. It's just us. Sarah's parents are deceased. Mine are too old and have their own health issues. I've been tested. I'm not a match. What about friends, community members? Sometimes people are willing to donate if they understand the need. I can't ask someone to give up a kidney for my daughter. Dad, Maya said softly. I can't. It's too much. Elena stepped forward. What if someone volunteered without being asked? Everyone looked at her. I mean, hypothetically. If someone wanted to be tested as a potential donor, how would that work? Dr. Patterson studied her with new interest. The first step would be blood type matching, then a series of tests to determine overall compatibility. The process takes several weeks. And if there's a match, then we schedule surgery. The donor recovery is typically 6 to 8 weeks. The recipient recovery is longer, but with a living donor, the outcomes are generally better than with a deceased donor kidney. Elena nodded slowly. I'd like to be tested. The room went silent. Elena, no. Marcus was on his feet. You can't. I can. And I want to. You don't even know if you're compatible. Then let's find out. This is insane. You barely know us. I know enough. Elena turned to Dr. Patterson. What do I need to do? The doctor looked between Elena and Marcus, clearly sensing the tension. The first step is a simple blood test. We can do that today if you're certain. I'm certain. Elena! Marcus grabbed her arm, pulling her toward the door. Can I talk to you alone? They stepped into the hallway. Marcus's face was a storm of emotions, anger, fear, confusion, and something else Elena couldn't name. What are you doing? He demanded, trying to help. This isn't help. This is I don't even know what this is. It's exactly what it looks like. I want to see if I can save your daughter's life. By giving up a kidney. Do you understand what that means? The surgery, the recovery, the risks. I understand. Then why? Why would you do this for us? Elena took a breath. Because Maya deserves a chance. Because you've given up everything for her, and no one has ever given anything back. Because I have money and power and influence, and none of it means anything if I can't use it to help someone who actually matters. We're not a charity case. I know that. I won't be in your debt. I'm not asking you to be. Marcus stared at her, his chest heaving. I don't understand you. I've tried, but I can't. You're not like anyone I've ever known. Is that a bad thing? I don't know. I honestly don't know. They stood in the hallway, the sounds of the hospital humming around them. Somewhere nearby, a child was crying. A phone rang at a nurse's station. Life continued indifferent to the moment happening between them. Let me do this, Elena said quietly. Let me try. If I'm not a match, then we'll figure something else out. But if I am, if there's even a chance I can help Maya, how can I not try? Marcus's eyes were wet. He blinked rapidly, fighting for control. Why do you care so much? Because you made me remember what caring feels like. He didn't respond. He just looked at her, and in his eyes, Elena saw something break open. A wall crumbling, a door opening. Okay, he whispered. Okay. They went back into the examination room. Dr. Patterson was explaining something to Maya, who looked up with questioning eyes when they entered. Well, Maya asked, are you two done being dramatic in the hallway? We're done, Elena said, and I'm getting tested. Maya's face transformed. For a moment, she looked like the child she still was, vulnerable, hopeful, afraid to believe. Really? Really? But you don't have to. I want to. Maya looked at her father. Marcus nodded once, and that was enough. Maya burst into tears, covering her face with her hands. Marcus moved to her side, immediately wrapping his arms around her, murmuring words Elena couldn't hear. She stood apart, watching father and daughter hold each other, feeling like an intruder in their pain and hope. Then Maya reached out one hand, grabbing Elena's sleeve, pulling her into the embrace. For a long moment, the three of them stayed like that, connected, holding on. The blood test took 15 minutes. Elena sat in a chair while a nurse drew several vials, asking routine questions about medical history and current medications. Marcus and Maya waited outside, their faces pressed against the window in the door like children at a candy store. "Your friends seem invested," the nurse observed. "They are. Must be nice, having people who care that much." Elena looked at the window, at Marcus's worried eyes and Maya's hopeful ones. "It is. The results would take a week, 7 days of waiting, of wondering, of hoping and fearing in equal measure." Elena threw herself into work, trying not to count the hours. The Sterling music group was in transition. With Drake gone, she was restructuring the executive team, promoting people who had proven loyal, removing those who had allied themselves with Drake's agenda. It was exhausting work, but necessary. Margaret Chen came to see her on Friday. "You look tired," the older woman observed. "I am tired. Is it the company or something else?" Elena set down her pen. "I'm being tested as a kidney donor for Maya Williams." Margaret's eyebrows rose. "That's quite a commitment." "It is. Does the board know?" "Not yet. It's personal." "Personal." Margaret sat down slowly. "Elena, you understand how this will look. The CEO of Sterling Music Group donating a kidney to the daughter of a night security guard? The tabloids will have a field day." "I don't care about the tabloids." "You should. Public perception affects stock prices, investor confidence, everything." "Then let them talk. Let them write whatever they want. I'm done making decisions based on what people might think." Margaret studied her for a long moment. "You've changed." "Have I?" "Yes. The Elena I knew 6 months ago would never have taken this risk. She would have written a check and kept her distance. Safe, professional, detached. The Elena you knew 6 months ago was miserable. And now?" Elena thought about it. "Now I'm terrified. But at least I feel something." Margaret smiled. "Your father would have hated this, you know. Getting personally involved. Risking the company's image for a stranger." "Maya isn't a stranger, and I'm not my father." "No, you're not. Thank God for that." The weekend passed slowly. Elena tried to distract herself with reports and projections, but her mind kept returning to Marcus and Maya. She texted them both casual messages, checking in, trying not to reveal how anxious she was. Maya sent back emoji-filled responses full of humor and teenage energy. Marcus's replies were shorter, more guarded, but Elena was learning to read between his lines. Sunday night, her phone rang. "Marcus, the results are in," he said without preamble. "Dr. Patterson called. She wants to see us tomorrow morning." Elena's heart stopped. "Did she say?" "She didn't say anything, just that we needed to come in." "What time?" 9 o'clock. "I'll be there." She didn't sleep that night. She lay in bed staring at the ceiling, thinking about all the ways this could go wrong. She wasn't a match. She was a match but had some disqualifying condition. She was a match and the surgery went badly, and she ended up, stop. She forced herself to breathe. Whatever happened, she would face it. That's what you did when you cared about something. You faced it. Monday morning, 9 o'clock, Queens Medical Center. Elena arrived to find Marcus and Maya already in Dr. Patterson's office. Their faces were pale, drawn tight with anticipation. She sat down beside them and, without thinking, reached for Marcus's hand. He grabbed it like a drowning man grabbing a rope. Dr. Patterson entered a folder in her hands. She sat behind her desk, her expression carefully neutral. "Thank you all for coming," she said. "I have Elena's test results." Elena's grip on Marcus's hand tightened. "The blood type is compatible," Dr. Patterson continued. "O positive, which is a universal donor type. The initial antibody screening also looks good." "So, she's a match?" Maya's voice was barely a whisper. "Preliminary results are very promising. We need to do additional testing, tissue typing, cross-matching, a full medical evaluation. But based on what we have so far, Elena appears to be an excellent candidate for living donation." Maya burst into tears for the second time in a week. Marcus pulled her close. His own eyes wet his body, shaking. Elena sat very still, the news washing over her. She was a match. She could save Maya's life. "There's still a process to go through," Dr. Patterson was saying. "More tests, psychological evaluation, surgical consultation. And I want to be clear about the risks. Kidney donation is a significant surgery. Recovery takes time. There are potential complications." "I understand," Elena said. "Do you, because this isn't something you can undo once it's done. This is a lifetime commitment." "I understand," Elena repeated. "And I want to do it." Dr. Patterson nodded slowly. "Then we'll schedule the additional testing. If everything goes well, we could be looking at surgery within 6 to 8 weeks. 6 to 8 weeks. Maya would have her transplant before summer ended. She could start high school with a functioning kidney, a real chance at a normal life. After Dr. Patterson left to arrange the appointments, Maya threw her arms around Elena. "Thank you," she sobbed. "Thank you, thank you, thank you." "You're welcome, sweetheart. I can't believe you're doing this. I can't believe anyone would do this." "Believe it." Marcus stood apart watching them. His face was a battlefield of emotions, gratitude, disbelief, something that looked almost like pain. "Marcus," Elena said. He shook his head. "I don't have words. There aren't words for this." "You don't need words. I need something. Something to make you understand what this means to us." Elena gently extracted herself from Maya's embrace and walked to Marcus. She stood in front of him, looking up into those gray-green eyes that had haunted her since the night she first saw him at her father's piano. "I understand," she said. "I understand perfectly." He pulled her into his arms. Not a casual embrace, not a friendly hug, but something deeper. Something that spoke of years of loneliness, of walls finally coming down, of the terrifying vulnerability of letting someone in. "Thank you," he whispered into her hair. "Thank you for seeing us, for choosing us, for being someone I didn't know existed." "I didn't know I existed either. Not until you." They stood like that for a long time, Maya watching from the side, with tears streaming down her face and a smile that could have lit up the entire hospital. The weeks that followed were a blur of tests and appointments. Elena underwent every evaluation. The transplant team required physical exams, blood work, CT scans, psychological assessments. Each one confirmed what the initial tests had suggested: she was an ideal donor candidate. Meanwhile, Maya's condition continued to decline. Her energy levels dropped. She had to cut back on cello practice because it exhausted her too quickly. She missed school more often than she attended. Through it all, Marcus held everything together. He worked his night shifts, cared for Maya during the day, and somehow found time to finish the composition he'd been working on. The piece he and Robert Sterling had started 30 years ago. The piece he was now calling Second Chances. Elena heard parts of it one evening at Marcus's apartment. He played on a small upright piano that barely fit in the corner of the living room, and even on that modest instrument, the music was extraordinary. "It's beautiful," she said when he finished. "It's not done yet. What's missing?" Marcus looked at her. "An ending. I know how it should feel, but I can't find the notes. Maybe you're trying too hard. Maybe. Or maybe I'm afraid." "Of what?" "Of finishing. of letting go of something I've carried for 30 years? He touched the keys lightly. This piece is all I have left of that time, of who I was before everything fell apart. If I finish it, what happens then? Elena sat beside him on the piano bench. Then you start something new. At 48, with a sick daughter and a security guard salary. With a daughter who's going to get better. With talent that never went away. With someone who believes in you. Marcus turned to face her. Someone? Me. I believe in you. He lifted his hand, touched her face. His fingers were rough from years of manual labor, but gentle. Elena, His phone rang. He pulled it out, looked at the screen, and his face changed. It's Dr. Patterson. He answered, listened, and with each passing second, Elena watched the color drain from his face. When? He asked. How bad? Yes. Yes, we'll be right there. He hung up. What is it? Elena demanded. What's wrong? Maya collapsed at school. They've taken her to the ER. Her kidney function. His voice broke. They're saying we may not have 6 weeks anymore. We may not have 6 days. They ran. The drive to the hospital took 20 minutes. Elena drove while Marcus called everyone he could think of. Dr. Patterson, the transplant coordinator, the school, to get details on what had happened. His hands were shaking so badly he could barely hold the phone. I should have seen it coming, he kept saying. I should have noticed she was getting worse. You couldn't have known. I'm her father. I should have known. Marcus, stop. Blaming yourself won't help Maya. He went silent, staring out the window, his jaw clenched so tight Elena could see the muscles jumping. They found Maya in the emergency room, hooked up to machines, lines running into both arms. She looked small in the hospital bed, fragile in a way Elena had never seen before. Dad? Her voice was weak but steady. Don't look so scared. You're freaking me out. Marcus rushed to her side, taking her hand. I'm not scared. You're terrified. I can tell. Maya managed a small smile. It's okay. I'm scared too. Dr. Patterson arrived, her face grave. Her kidney function has dropped to 11%. We're looking at possible acute failure. What does that mean? Elena asked. It means we need to move fast. Emergency dialysis tonight to stabilize her. And if Elena's final tests come back clear, we schedule surgery as soon as possible. How soon? Tomorrow, if we can manage it. Elena felt the ground shift beneath her feet. Tomorrow. She could be on an operating table tomorrow, having her kidney removed, changing her body forever. Yes, she said. Whatever you need. Yes. Dr. Patterson nodded. We'll need you admitted tonight for pre-op preparation. There's paperwork, final blood work, surgical consent forms. I'll sign whatever you need. Elena. Marcus was looking at her, his eyes red, his face haggard. Are you sure this is happening so fast? I'm sure. She walked to Maya's bedside, took the girl's other hand. I'm going to be right here, and tomorrow I'm going to give you something that will help you get better. Okay. Maya's eyes filled with tears. You're really going to do this? I really am. Why? I still don't understand why. Elena thought about all the answers she could give. Because your father changed my life. Because you reminded me what matters. Because I have the power to help, and refusing to use it would be unforgivable. But what she said was simpler. Because you're worth it, Maya. You're worth everything. The girl began to cry then, and Elena held her, stroking her hair, murmuring comfort, while machines beeped and doctors consulted, and the world continued to turn outside the hospital walls. Later that night, after Maya had been stabilized and moved to a room, after Elena had completed her admission paperwork and changed into a hospital gown, Marcus found her alone in the pre-op area. He sat on the edge of her bed, looking exhausted and raw. I don't know how to thank you, he said. You don't have to. I want to. I need to find some way to... Marcus. She reached for his hand. I'm not doing this for thanks. I'm doing it because I love your daughter. And because... She stopped. Because what? Elena looked at him, this man who had lost everything and rebuilt himself from nothing, who had given up his dreams to protect his child, who had somehow found the strength to keep going when most people would have broken. Because I love you, she said. I know it's too soon, and I know our lives are complicated, and I know there are 1,000 reasons why this doesn't make sense. But I love you, Marcus, and loving someone means being willing to give them parts of yourself. This is just more literal than usual. Marcus stared at her. For a long moment, he didn't speak. Then he leaned forward and kissed her. It wasn't a gentle kiss or a tentative one. It was desperate and grateful and full of everything he couldn't put into words. Elena kissed him back, her hands gripping his shoulders, pulling him closer. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Marcus rested his forehead against hers. I love you too, he whispered. God help me, I love you too. They stayed like that until a nurse came to check Elena's vitals, forcing them apart with apologetic efficiency. Marcus retreated to a chair in the corner, but his eyes never left Elena's face. At midnight, the hospital quieted. Elena lay in her bed, unable to sleep, watching the shadows shift across the ceiling. Her phone buzzed. A text from Margaret Chen. Heard what's happening. You're either the bravest woman I know or the craziest. Probably both. The company will be fine. Focus on what matters. Elena smiled and typed back. What matters is in the room next door. Another text came through. Unknown number. You think giving away a kidney makes you a hero? It doesn't change who you are. It doesn't change what your family did. Some debts can't be paid. Elena stared at the message. Then she blocked the number and set down her phone. Some debts couldn't be paid. That was true. But you could still try. You could still offer what you had, give what you could, love who you loved. That had to count for something. At 6 a.m., the surgical team came for her. Marcus was there holding Maya's hand. The girl had insisted on being wheeled to the pre-op area to see Elena before the surgery. You've got this, Maya said, her voice stronger than it had been the night before. And when you wake up, we'll both be fixed. Like a matched set. Elena laughed. A matched set. I like that. Dad's going to write a song about it. Aren't you, Dad? Marcus nodded, his eyes bright. Already started. They wheeled Elena toward the operating room. At the doors, she looked back one last time. Marcus and Maya stood together, father and daughter, watching her go. She raised her hand in a small wave. They waved back. Then the doors closed, and Elena was alone with the surgical team, the bright lights, and the biggest risk she had ever taken. She closed her eyes and thought about music, about second chances, about a security guard playing Beethoven at 2 a.m. and changing everything she thought she knew about her life. Count backward from 10, the anesthesiologist said. 10, 9, 8. The world faded to black. The first thing Elena heard was beeping. Steady, rhythmic, mechanical. Then voices distant and muffled like sounds underwater. She tried to open her eyes, but her lids felt weighted with lead. She's waking up. Marcus. That was Marcus's voice. Elena, can you hear me? She forced her eyes open. The world swam into focus slowly. White ceiling, fluorescent lights, a face hovering above her. Gray-green eyes filled with worry and relief. Marcus, she whispered. Her throat felt like sandpaper. I'm here. You're okay. Surgery went perfectly. Maya. She's good. The transplant was successful. She's in recovery 2 rooms down. Elena felt tears slide from the corners of her eyes. She's okay. She's okay. Because of you. Marcus took her hand, pressed it to his lips. You saved her, Elena. You saved my daughter. She wanted to say something, but exhaustion pulled her back under. The last thing she felt was Marcus's hand in hers, warm and steady, anchoring her to the world. When she woke again, hours had passed. The room was darker, quieter. A different kind of beeping, now slower, more peaceful. She turned her head and found Maya sitting in the wheelchair beside her bed, IV pole-attached hospital gown, matching Elena's own. "Hey," Maya said softly. "You're awake." "Hey yourself." Elena's voice was stronger now, but still rough. "Should you be out of bed?" "Probably not. Dad went to get coffee, and the nurses are doing shift change. I snuck over." Maya grinned, but her eyes were serious. "I wanted to see you. To say thank you." "You already thanked me." "Not like this. Not after." Maya wheeled closer, taking Elena's hand. "I can feel it, you know. The new kidney. It's weird, but I swear I can feel it working. Like this part of you is inside me now, keeping me alive." Elena squeezed her hand. "That's exactly where it should be." "Why did you do it?" Maya asked. "I know what you said before, but I still don't really understand. People don't just give away organs to strangers." "You're not a stranger, not anymore." "But I was. When you decided to get tested, I was basically a stranger. Some sick kid whose dad worked at your company." Elena thought about how to answer. The truth was complicated, layered with guilt about her father and attraction to Marcus, and something deeper she was still trying to name. "When I was 12, she said finally, my father told me I wasn't good enough. Not at piano, not at anything that really mattered. I spent the next 30 years believing him, building walls, keeping everyone at a safe distance." She paused, gathering strength. "Then I met your dad, and you. And for the first time I saw a different way to live. A way that was about connection instead of achievement, love instead of success. So you gave me a kidney because my dad inspired you. I gave you a kidney because you matter, because your life is worth saving. Because I had the power to help, and not helping would have meant I was still the person my father wanted me to be." Elena met Maya's eyes. "I don't want to be that person anymore." Maya was quiet for a moment. Then she leaned forward and kissed Elena's forehead. "Thank you," she whispered, "for everything." The door opened and Marcus appeared, coffee cup in hand. He stopped short when he saw Maya. "What are you doing out of bed?" "Visiting my kidney donor. Is that a crime?" "It is when you're supposed to be resting." But Marcus was smiling as he said it. He helped Maya back into her wheelchair and rolled her toward the door. "Say goodbye to Elena. You both need sleep." "Bye, Elena. See you tomorrow." "See you tomorrow, sweetheart." When Maya was gone, Marcus returned. He sat in the chair beside Elena's bed, looking exhausted, but somehow lighter than she'd ever seen him. "She's really okay?" Elena asked. "She's really okay. Dr. Patterson said her numbers are already improving. The new kidney is functioning perfectly." "Good. That's good." Marcus reached out, brushed a strand of hair from her face. "How are you feeling?" "Like someone removed one of my organs." He laughed, a real laugh, full and warm. "Fair enough. The doctor said you'll be sore for a while. 6 to 8 weeks of recovery." "I know. I read all the pamphlets." "Did you?" "Because I found a stack of them unopened in your bag. I read the important parts." "Which parts were those?" "The part that said Maya would be okay." Marcus's expression softened. "Elena, don't say whatever you're about to say. I'm too tired for emotional conversations." "I was just going to say that I love you." She blinked. "Oh, well, that's allowed." "Good to know." He leaned forward, kissed her gently. "Sleep now. I'll be here when you wake up." "Promise?" "Promise." The recovery was harder than Elena had anticipated. Not the physical pain she'd expected that prepared for it. The hardest part was the stillness. For weeks, she wasn't allowed to work, wasn't allowed to drive, wasn't allowed to do much of anything except rest and heal. It was torture. "You're the worst patient I've ever seen," Marcus told her 3 weeks post-surgery. He was sitting in her living room at Lakeside watching her try to sneak her laptop out of the drawer where he'd hidden it. "I'm fine. I feel fine. I need to check my email." "Your email has been checked. Jennifer sends daily updates. Everything is under control." "But, Elena." Marcus stood gently but firmly, guiding her back to the couch. "The company survived without you for 3 weeks. It will survive 3 more. What if it doesn't? Then you'll rebuild it. But you can't rebuild anything if you tear your stitches trying to answer emails about quarterly projections." She slumped back against the cushions, defeated. "I hate this." "I know. I'm not good at being helpless." "I noticed." "How do you do it? How did you spend years taking care of Maya, putting your whole life on hold without going crazy?" Marcus sat beside her. "Who said I didn't go crazy? There were days I wanted to scream, days I wanted to walk out the door and never come back. Days I wondered if any of it mattered, if I was just delaying the inevitable." "But you didn't walk out." "No, because Maya needed me. And because somewhere buried under all the fear and frustration, I still believed things could get better." He took her hand. "They did get better. Because of you." Elena leaned against his shoulder. "I don't feel like I did anything heroic. I just did what anyone would do." "That's not true, and you know it. Most people wouldn't have gotten involved at all. They would have seen a struggling single father and a sick kid and thought, 'That's sad,' and then gone back to their comfortable lives." "Maybe. Not maybe, definitely." Marcus kissed the top of her head. "You're different, Elena. You always were. You just forgot for a while." They sat in silence, watching the afternoon light shift across the lake. Elena felt something settling inside her, a peace she hadn't known she was missing. "Maya wants to come over this weekend," Marcus said. "She's been asking about the music collection. She's welcome any time. Both of you are. She wants to play for you, on the Bosendorfer." Elena looked up. "Really?" "She's been practicing. Says she has a surprise." "What kind of surprise?" "If I told you, it wouldn't be a surprise." Saturday arrived warm and golden. Maya bounded into Lakeside with an energy that seemed impossible for someone who'd had major surgery 6 weeks earlier. "You look amazing," Elena said, hugging her carefully. "I feel amazing, like a whole new person." Maya spun around, arms outstretched. "Is this really where you live? It's like a castle." "That's what you said last time." "It's still true." Maya spotted the Bosendorfer in the corner. "Oh my God, is that the piano? That's the piano." Maya approached it reverently, running her fingers along the closed lid. "It's beautiful. Can I really play it?" "That's why you're here." Marcus had followed them in carrying a bag that Elena noticed he set down carefully, as if it contained something precious. He caught her looking and smiled mysteriously. "Later," he said. Maya sat at the piano, adjusting the bench, positioning her hands. She took a deep breath, closed her eyes for a moment, then began to play. The piece was unfamiliar at first, not classical, not jazz, but something in between. Then Elena recognized fragments, the melody from Heartstrings. The composition Marcus and her father had started decades ago. But it was different now, transformed. The unfinished piece had become something new. She looked at Marcus, who was watching his daughter with tears in his eyes. "She learned it," Elena whispered. "She asked me to teach her, after the surgery while she was recovering. She said she wanted to give you something." The music built, grew, reached toward something Elena couldn't quite name. Then Maya's hands stilled the final notes hanging in the air. "That's as far as Dad finished," Maya said. "But I've been working on the ending." "You wrote an ending?" "I tried. Dad helped, but mostly it's me." Maya's fingers found the keys again. "This is for you, Elena, for everything you did." She began to play again, and Elena felt her breath catch. The ending Maya had written wasn't what her father would have chosen: safe, predictable, resolved. It wasn't what Marcus had improvised that day in her living room either: complex, challenging, ambitious. It was something else entirely simple, honest, achingly beautiful. A 14-year-old girl's understanding of what it meant to be given a second chance at life. When the last note faded, no one spoke. Then Elena stood, walked to the piano, and wrapped her arms around Maya. "That was perfect," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "Absolutely perfect. You really liked it." "I loved it. Your father must be so proud." Maya glanced at Marcus, who hadn't moved from his spot by the door. His face was wet with tears he wasn't bothering to hide. "He cries at everything now," Maya said with affectionate exasperation. "Ever since the surgery, he's like a faucet." "I'm not crying," Marcus said, wiping his eyes. "I have allergies." "Sure, Dad, allergies." They laughed together, the three of them, and Elena felt something click into place. This was what family felt like. Not the cold formality of her childhood, but this warmth, teasing tears, love. Marcus retrieved the bag he'd brought and handed it to Elena. "Your turn for a surprise." Inside was a leather portfolio worn soft with age. Elena opened it and found sheet music, handwritten pages in two different scripts, one precise and familiar, one more fluid. "Is this?" "The original manuscript. Heartstrings, or second chances, as I've been calling it." Marcus moved to stand beside her. "I finished it, all of it, and I want you to have it." "Marcus, I can't. This is yours." "It's ours. Mine, your father's, and now Maya's. And yours because without you, none of us would be here to finish it." Elena traced the notes with her fingertips. 30 years of history captured in ink and paper. Conflict and loss and redemption written in the language of music. "Thank you," she said. "I don't know what else to say." "You don't have to say anything." Marcus took her hand. "But there is something else. Something I've been meaning to ask." Maya grinned. "Finally." "Hush." Marcus shot his daughter a look before turning back to Elena. "I know this has all happened fast. I know our lives are complicated. I know there are 1,000 reasons why this shouldn't work. But I don't care about any of them. I care about you, about how you make me feel, about who I am when I'm with you." He reached into his pocket and pulled out something small. "I'm not asking you to marry me, not yet. That would be crazy." "Definitely crazy," Maya agreed. "But I am asking if you'll wear this." He opened his hand to reveal a simple ring, silver with a small blue stone. "It was Sarah's mother's. Maya wanted you to have it." Elena looked at Maya, who nodded enthusiastically. "It's not an engagement ring," Maya clarified. "It's more like a promise ring, a promise that you're part of our family now, officially." Elena felt tears spilling down her cheeks. She held out her hand, and Marcus slipped the ring onto her finger. "Perfect fit," he said softly. "How did you know my size?" Jennifer helped. "My assistant is conspiring against me." "Your assistant wants you to be happy. So do I." Marcus kissed her hand right above the ring. "So what do you say? Will you be part of our weird, complicated, slightly dysfunctional family?" Elena looked at the ring on her finger, at Maya's hopeful face, at Marcus's loving eyes. "Yes," she said. "Absolutely yes." The weeks that followed were a blur of recovery and adjustment. Elena returned to work gradually, part-time at first, then more as her strength returned. The board had stabilized in her absence, the chaos of Drake's departure settling into a new normal. But something had shifted. Elena found herself less consumed by quarterly reports and market projections. She left the office at reasonable hours. She took weekends off. She discovered that the world didn't end when she wasn't constantly working. "You're different," Jennifer observed one afternoon. "Calmer." "Is that bad?" "It's good, really good." Jennifer hesitated. "Can I say something personal?" Of course. I've worked for you for 7 years. You were always fair, always professional, but there was this wall, like you were holding everyone at arm's length. Now, she shrugged. The wall's gone. I had good teachers. The Williamses. How did you know? Jennifer smiled. Everyone knows. About Maya's surgery, about Marcus, about all of it. And what does everyone think? That you're the bravest person they've ever met. That Mr. Sterling would be proud of you. That maybe there's hope for all of us, if someone like you can find happiness. Elena didn't know what to say. She'd spent so long being the intimidating CEO, the untouchable leader, that she'd forgotten people saw her as human. Thank you, Jennifer. That means a lot. Her assistant nodded and returned to her desk. Elena sat for a moment, thinking about walls and how long it had taken her to realize she'd built them. That evening, she met Marcus and Maya at the community center. Maya had a recital, her first public performance since the transplant. The program listed her as playing Beethoven's Pathetique Sonata, the piece she'd been working toward for months. Nervous, Elena asked her backstage. Terrified, Maya admitted. What if I mess up? What if everyone can tell I was sick? Everyone already knows you were sick, and they're here because they want to celebrate that you're better. Elena squeezed her shoulders. You've got this, Maya. I believe in you. What if I'm not good enough? Elena knelt down so they were eye to eye. Listen to me. When I was your age, someone told me I wasn't good enough. I believed him, and I stopped playing music for 30 years. Don't make my mistake. You are good enough. You are more than enough. Now get out there and show everyone what you can do. Maya hugged her tight. I love you, Elena. I love you too, sweetheart. Now go. From the audience, Elena watched Maya take the stage. The girl looked so small behind the grand piano, so young. But when she began to play, something transformed. She wasn't a sick kid anymore, wasn't a transplant patient, wasn't a teenager struggling with fear and doubt. She was a musician, pure and simple, channeling Beethoven through her fingers, like he'd written the piece just for her. Marcus reached for Elena's hand in the darkness. She gripped it tight, feeling his pulse racing as fast as her own. The Pathetique was demanding emotionally and physically. There were moments when Elena held her breath, waiting for Maya to falter. But she never did. She played with passion and precision, bringing out colors in the music that Elena had never heard before. When the final chord sounded, the audience erupted. People rose to their feet, applauding, cheering. Elena saw parents crying, children staring in awe, teachers nodding with pride. Maya stood from the bench, her face flushed, her eyes bright with tears. She found Elena and Marcus in the crowd and smiled a smile that said everything words couldn't express. Later, after the congratulations and the photographs and the endless praise from Maya's teachers, the three of them walked to the ice cream shop that had become their tradition. I can't believe I did it, Maya kept saying. I actually did it. You were incredible, Marcus said. Your mother would have been so proud. You think so? I know so. She used to say that music was the best way to tell the truth. Tonight you told the truth beautifully. They ordered their usual vanilla for Marcus, something outrageous and colorful for Maya, salted caramel for Elena. They sat in their corner booth, the same one they'd claimed that first afternoon, after Maya's earlier recital, back when Elena was still a stranger, trying to understand why she cared about these people. I have news, Maya announced between bites of ice cream. I didn't want to say anything until after the recital, but I got into LaGuardia. What? Marcus's jaw dropped. The Arts High School, full scholarship, starting in September. Maya, that's amazing. Elena reached across the table to hug her. Why didn't you tell us you applied? Because I didn't want to jinx it, and because... Maya glanced at her father. I wasn't sure I'd be well enough to go. But you are. Marcus said, his voice thick. You're well enough. You're more than well enough. Because of Elena. Maya turned to her. You gave me this. Not just the kidney, the chance. The future. I'm going to become a real musician, and it's because you believed I could. Elena felt tears threatening again. She seemed to cry constantly these days, all the emotions she'd suppressed for decades finally finding their way out. You would have become a real musician no matter what, she said. I just helped a little. A little. You gave me an organ. Details. They laughed together, the sound bright and warm in the small shop. Around them, other families ate their ice cream, lived their lives unaware of the miracle sitting in the corner booth. Marcus's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, and his expression changed. What is it? Elena asked. Email from a promoter. Someone saw the video of me playing at the community center last month. They want to know if I'm interested in performing. Performing like professionally. Like a concert, a real concert, at Lincoln Center. Maya nearly dropped her ice cream. Dad, Lincoln Center. It's probably nothing. A mistake. It's not a mistake. Elena took his phone, scanned the email. They've seen your videos. They know your history. They're offering you a comeback. I can't. I haven't performed professionally in 20 years. So I'm rusty, out of practice. I'm not the pianist I used to be. You're right, Elena said. You're better. You've lived. You've suffered. You've loved. All of that goes into the music now. She's right, Dad. Maya grabbed his hand. You always told me not to let fear stop me from doing what I love. Don't be a hypocrite. Marcus looked between them, his daughter bright with excitement and Elena steady with belief. It's terrifying, he admitted. I know. Do it anyway. He was quiet for a long moment. Then slowly he smiled. Okay, I'll do it. Maya shrieked with joy, attracting stares from nearby tables. She didn't care. She jumped up and hugged her father, bouncing on her heels. This is the best day ever. The recital, LaGuardia, and now this. It's like everything good is happening at once. It is, Elena agreed. Everything good is happening at once, because you both deserve it. Marcus reached across the table and took her hand. We deserve it because of you. You started all of this that night in the lobby when you dared me to play Beethoven. You didn't play. No, but I wanted to. For the first time in years, I wanted to. You woke something up in me, Elena, something I thought was dead. What was that? Hope. They sat there hand in hand as the evening settled around them. Outside, the city hummed with life, people going home from work, children playing in the summer twilight cars, honking music drifting from open windows. Elena thought about her father, who had built an empire on music, but never understood what it was really for. She thought about Richard Drake, who had tried to tear that empire down for profit. She thought about Marcus, who had given up everything for love, and Maya, who had fought so hard just to survive. And she thought about herself, the woman who had walked into that lobby 3 months ago, bitter and alone, and the woman who sat here now holding the hand of the man she loved, watching his daughter celebrate her future. Play Beethoven and you're mine, she murmured. Marcus looked at her quizzically. That's what I said to you, that first night, before I knew anything. I remember. Did you know then that everything would change? Marcus considered the question. I knew something would, I just didn't know what. He lifted her hand to his lips. I'm glad I was wrong about staying safe. I'm glad I let you in. So am I. Maya returned to her seat, her ice cream now mostly melted. You two are being gross and romantic again. Get used to it, Elena said. Oh, I am. I'm thinking of writing a song about it. My dad and his CEO girlfriend, a love story in 3 parts. Please don't. Too late. Already started the first verse. They finished their ice cream as the shop began to close around them. The owner, Rosa, waved goodbye as they left, calling out congratulations to Maya for her recital. Outside, the summer night was warm and soft. They walked toward their cars, Maya skipping ahead, Marcus and Elena following slowly, savoring the moment. "Thank you," Marcus said quietly. "For what?" "For everything. For seeing me when no one else did. For believing in Maya. For giving us a future." Elena stopped walking, turned to face him. "You gave me something too, Marcus. Something I'd been missing my whole life." "What's that?" "A reason to stop running. A place to belong." He kissed her there on the sidewalk under the streetlights, with his daughter, pretending to gag in the background. It wasn't a dramatic kiss, not the desperate embrace of the hospital or the tender farewell before surgery. It was something quieter, more certain. A promise of what was still to come. 6 months later, Lincoln Center was sold out. Elena stood backstage watching Marcus pace. He'd worn a path in the carpet over the past hour, back and forth, hands clenching and unclenching, muttering fragments of music under his breath. "You're going to wear a hole in the floor?" she said. "I might throw up." "You won't." "I might." He stopped pacing, faced her. "What am I doing, Elena? I haven't performed professionally in 20 years. 20 years. Everyone out there is expecting the pianist I used to be, and I'm not him anymore." "You're right. You're not." Elena walked to him, straightened his tie. "You're better." "You keep saying that." "Because it's true." "What if I freeze? What if I get out there and forget everything?" "Then you'll remember. Your hands know this music better than your brain does." Marcus grabbed her shoulders. "I'm serious. This could be a disaster. I could humiliate myself in front of 2,000 people and destroy whatever reputation I had left. Or you could play the concert of your life and remind the world what they've been missing." Elena met his eyes steadily. "Either way, I'll be in the front row. Maya will be beside me. We're not going anywhere." He let out a shaky breath. "I don't deserve you." "Probably not. But you're stuck with me anyway." Maya appeared at the stage door, practically vibrating with excitement. She was wearing the blue dress Elena had helped her pick out, her hair swept up in an elegant twist that made her look older than her 15 years. "5 minutes, Dad. The house is packed. I saw Margaret Chen in the 3rd row, and there's a guy from the Times in the press section." Not helping Maya. "Sorry." She grinned, not sorry at all. "But seriously, this is so cool. My dad is playing Lincoln Center. Do you know how many kids at LaGuardia would kill for this?" "I thought you weren't supposed to brag about your parents." "That's a rule for normal parents. You're not normal. You're a comeback story." Maya hugged him quickly. "You've got this, Dad. Just play like you play for me and Elena at home. Playing for you is different. You're family. So pretend they're all family. 2,000 weird relatives who really want to hear you play piano." Marcus laughed despite himself. "That's terrifying." See, problem solved. A stage manager appeared. "Mr. Williams, 2 minutes." Marcus looked at Elena, then at Maya, his family. The 2 people who had given him a reason to sit at a piano again, to believe he had something left to offer. "Okay," he said. "Okay, I can do this." "You can do this," Elena confirmed. "Go be amazing, Dad." He kissed Elena quickly, hugged Maya, and walked toward the stage door. At the threshold, he paused and looked back. "If I pass out, don't let them put it on YouTube." "No promises," Maya called after him. Then he was gone, and Elena and Maya made their way to their seats in the front row. The concert hall was magnificent. Elena had been here before. Of course, charity events, board functions, the occasional classical performance. But she'd never sat in the front row. Never felt the anticipation humming through the crowd like electricity. Maya gripped her hand as the lights dimmed. "I'm nervous," the girl whispered. "Me too." "What if he's terrible?" "He won't be." "But what if—" "Maya, breathe." The stage manager's voice came over the speaker announcing Marcus Williams in a comeback performance 20 years in the making. The audience applauded politely, a mix of curiosity and skepticism. Most of them remembered the young prodigy who had disappeared from the classical world without explanation. Few knew the real story. Then Marcus walked onto the stage. He looked different under the lights, taller, somehow more commanding. The nervous man pacing backstage had vanished, replaced by someone who belonged on this stage, who had earned the right to be here through decades of sacrifice and survival. He sat at the Steinway, adjusted the bench, and placed his hands on the keys. For a moment, nothing happened. The silence stretched, and Elena felt her heart stop. Then he began to play. The opening notes of Chopin's Ballade No. 1 filled the hall, and Elena felt tears spring to her eyes. This wasn't the music of a rusty pianist making a tentative return. This was mastery, raw, powerful, transcendent. Every note rang with the weight of 20 years of living, loving, losing, and finding a way forward. Beside her, Maya was crying silently. Elena reached over and took her hand. The first half of the program was a journey through the classical repertoire, Chopin, Brahms, Debussy. Each piece revealed a different facet of Marcus's artistry, from technical brilliance to emotional depth. The audience, initially skeptical, grew increasingly captivated. By the time he finished Debussy's Clair de Lune, people were weeping openly. Intermission came, and Maya turned to Elena with streaming eyes. "He's incredible. I knew he was good, but this is... I know. How did he stay away from this for so long? How did he give this up? For you." Elena squeezed her hand. "He gave it up for you." Maya was silent for a moment, processing the enormity of that sacrifice. Then she straightened her shoulders with new resolve. "Then I have to be worth it. I have to do something amazing with my life to make all of this mean something." "You already are amazing, Maya. Just being here, being healthy, being you, that's everything he wanted." The house lights flickered, signaling the end of intermission. People returned to their seats, conversations fading to whispers. The second half opened with Beethoven's Pathétique Sonata, the same piece Maya had played at her recital. Elena smiled, recognizing the homage. Father and daughter connected through music across time and circumstance. Marcus played it differently than Maya had. Where her interpretation was youthful and passionate, his was weathered and wise. The same notes, the same structure, but filtered through a lifetime of experience. Elena heard Sarah's death in the slow movement, Maya's illness in the turbulent passages, and their family's hope in the triumphant conclusion. When it ended, the audience erupted. Standing ovation, thunderous applause, calls for more. Marcus stood and bowed his face, flushed his eyes, finding Elena and Maya in the front row. He held up a hand, asking for silence. "Thank you," he said, his voice carrying through the hall. "Thank you for being here tonight, for giving me another chance. 20 years ago, I walked away from this stage because I thought I had nothing left to give. I was wrong." The audience listened, rapt. "I'm going to close tonight with a piece that means more to me than anything I've ever played. It's called Second Chances, and it was started 30 years ago by two pianists who disagreed about almost everything. One of them was my teacher. The other was me." A murmur went through the crowd. Elena felt Margaret Chen's eyes on her from 3 rows back. "We never finished it," Marcus continued. "We argued, we parted ways, and the piece sat unfinished for 3 decades. But recently, someone reminded me that some compositions deserve an ending. That person is here tonight in the front row. She gave me back my music. She gave my daughter a future. She gave me a reason to believe that second chances are real." He looked directly at Elena. "This is for you." He sat down and began to play. The opening was familiar, the melody Elena had heard him play at Lakeside all those months ago. But as the piece developed, she heard new elements woven in. Maya's ending, the one she had written during her recovery. Fragments of other pieces, hints of Sarah's favorite Chopin, echoes of the Beethoven they had all come to love. It was a tapestry of their shared history, a musical document of loss and redemption, sacrifice and love. Every person who had shaped Marcus's journey was present in the notes, his teacher Robert Sterling, whose cruelty had nearly destroyed him. Sarah, whose love had transformed him. Maya, whose illness had forced him to choose between dreams and devotion. And Elena, who had given him back everything he thought he'd lost. The piece built to a climax, that took Elena's breath away. Not the safe resolution Robert Sterling would have wanted, not even the complex harmonies Marcus had once preferred. Something simpler, truer, a coming home. When the final chord sounded, Elena was sobbing. So was Maya. So were half the people in the hall. The silence that followed was absolute. Then someone in the back began to clap, and the sound spread like wildfire, until the entire audience was on its feet, roaring its approval. Marcus stood slowly overwhelmed. He looked at Elena, and even from the stage, she could see the tears on his face. "I love you," he mouthed. "I love you too," she mouthed back. Maya was already on her feet, pushing toward the stage. Elena followed protocol be damned. They climbed the steps and wrapped their arms around Marcus, the three of them holding each other, while 2,000 people cheered. Later at the reception, Elena stood by the window watching Marcus work the room. He moved with an ease she hadn't seen before, accepting congratulations, reconnecting with old colleagues, introducing Maya to legendary musicians who had once been his peers. Margaret Chen appeared at her elbow. "Your father would have hated this, you know." "I know." He would have said Marcus was stealing his thunder, taking credit for a piece Robert started. Probably. But he would have been wrong. Margaret smiled. Robert started that piece, but he never could have finished it. He didn't have the emotional depth. Marcus does. And that depth came from everything Robert tried to destroy. Elena turned to face the older woman. "Do you think he ever regretted it? What he did to Marcus?" "I don't know. Robert wasn't good at regret. He was too busy being right about everything." Margaret paused. "But I like to think somewhere some part of him knew he'd made a mistake. That he'd thrown away something precious because he was afraid of being surpassed." "That's generous." "It's probably fiction, but fiction can be comforting." Margaret squeezed her arm. "You did good, Elena. Better than Robert ever did. You found something broken and helped make it whole. That's a legacy worth having." Before Elena could respond, Maya bounded over with 2 cups of champagne. "One for you," she said, handing one to Elena, "and one for me because I'm almost 16 and this is a special occasion." "Nice try." "Worth a shot." Maya grinned and took a sip anyway. "Dad's being interviewed by 3 different newspapers. He's going to be famous again." "How do you feel about that?" "Weird. Good weird, though." Maya watched her father across the room. "He deserves this. He gave up so much for me, and I never really understood until tonight. Watching him play, seeing how good he is, I finally get what it cost him to walk away." "It didn't cost him anything," Elena said. "Not really. He told me once that he kept everything that mattered. He meant you." Maya's eyes grew wet. "He said that the first time I asked why he gave up music, he said you were worth it, worth everything." God. Maya wiped her eyes. "Now I'm crying again. This is becoming a habit." "A good habit." Marcus extracted himself from the journalists and made his way toward them. His face was flushed, his eyes bright, looking more alive than Elena had ever seen him. "Well," he asked. "How did I do?" "Adequate," Maya said. "Passable. Barely competent. Thanks for the support." "I'm kidding. You were incredible, Dad. The best I've ever heard you." "Elena, what about you?" Elena looked at him, this man who had changed everything, who had taught her what it meant to really live. "You were perfect," she said. "Absolutely perfect." He pulled her into his arms right there in front of everyone. "I couldn't have done it without you." "Yes, you could have." "Maybe. But I wouldn't have wanted to." They kissed, and somewhere nearby, Maya made gagging noises that fooled no one. The night wound down slowly. Guests departed, congratulations were exchanged, promises to stay in touch were made. By midnight, only the 3 of them remained in the emptying reception hall. "What now?" Maya asked. "Do we just go back to normal life?" "What's normal?" Marcus replied. We've got a CEO, a security guard, and a high school cellist. Nothing about us has ever been normal. Former security guard, Elena corrected. You're a professional pianist again, remember? Right, I keep forgetting. Don't worry. The contracts I'm negotiating with the management company will remind you. Contracts? Marcus raised an eyebrow. We haven't discussed contracts. I know, but someone has to look after your career, and Margaret recommended a firm that specializes in classical musicians. They're very interested in representing you. Elena smiled. Unless you'd rather handle the business side yourself. God, no. I hate the business side. Then let me handle it. Consider it my contribution to the partnership. What do I contribute? The talent, Maya interjected. Obviously. Elena brings the business skills, you bring the music, and I bring the youth and vitality. And the humility, Marcus added dryly. That too. They gathered their things and walked out into the November night. The city was quieter now, the streets mostly empty. Above them, the lights of Lincoln Center glowed against the dark sky. I want to show you something, Marcus said. He led them around the building to a small courtyard Elena had never noticed. In the center stood a fountain dry for the winter, surrounded by benches. This is where I sat the night I decided to leave music, Marcus said. After Robert blacklisted me, after every door closed, I came here. I sat on that bench and watched the fountain and tried to figure out what to do with my life. What did you decide? Maya asked softly. That night, nothing. I was too angry, too hurt. But later, when I found out Sarah was pregnant with you, I came back. I sat in the same spot and made a promise to myself. What promise? That I would never let you feel the way Robert made me feel. That I would love you without conditions, support you without expectations, let you become whoever you were meant to be. Marcus put his arm around Maya. I think I kept that promise. You did, Dad. You definitely did. Marcus turned to Elena. And then you came along and made me realize something else. That I'd been so focused on protecting Maya, I'd forgotten to protect myself. I'd given up so much, not just music, but hope, connection, the belief that good things could still happen. And now I believe again. He took her hand. Because of you, because of everything you've done and everything you are. Elena felt something shift in her chest, not pain, not sadness, but something opening, making room. Marcus, there's something I need to tell you. That sounds serious. It is. She took a breath. I've been thinking about my father's legacy, about the company, the foundation, all of it. And I've made some decisions. Marcus waited. I'm restructuring the foundation, expanding it. The William Sterling Foundation for Artists in Crisis is going to become the Sterling Williams Foundation for Musical Excellence. It will fund scholarships, medical care for musicians, support for artists who've faced barriers like the ones my father created. Elena, you don't have to. I want to. I want my father's money to undo some of the damage his pride caused. Starting with a full scholarship to any conservatory Maya wants to attend. Maya gasped. What? You're the foundation's first scholar. Full ride wherever you want to go. Juilliard, Eastman, Curtis, your choice. I can't, that's too much. It's not nearly enough. You've already given me more than any scholarship could repay. Maya threw her arms around Elena. Thank you. Oh my God, thank you. There's more. Elena continued, looking at Marcus over Maya's shoulder. I want you to be the foundation's artistic director. Help me identify other young musicians who need support. Use your experience, your connections, your understanding of what it's like to have talent, but no resources. Marcus shook his head slowly. Elena, I'm a pianist. I don't know anything about running a foundation. You know everything that matters. You know what it feels like to be overlooked, underestimated, shut out. You know how to recognize potential in unexpected places. She stepped closer to him. And I don't want to do this alone. I've been doing everything alone for too long. Is this a job offer or a marriage proposal? Elena smiled. Which one would you say yes to? Marcus looked at her for a long moment. The night was cold, their breath visible in the air between them, but Elena felt warmth spreading through her chest. Both, he said finally. The answer is yes to both. Maya shrieked. Wait, what? Are you two getting engaged right now? In a courtyard. Dad, you don't even have a ring. I have something better. Marcus reached into his pocket and pulled out a folded piece of paper. Elena Sterling. I don't have diamonds or gold, but I have this. He handed her the paper. Elena unfolded it with trembling fingers. It was sheet music, a single page handwritten titled Elena's Song. I wrote it last week, Marcus said. It's not finished, probably won't be for years, but I wanted you to have the beginning, the way you gave me a new beginning. Elena couldn't speak. She stared at the notes, at the beautiful cursive of his handwriting, at the love made visible on the page. Is that a yes? Marcus asked. Because I'm freezing, and Maya is about to explode, and I really need to know if... She kissed him. Hard, pouring everything she couldn't say into the contact. When they broke apart, Maya was filming them on her phone. This is going to get so many views, she said happily. Delete that. Absolutely not. This is family history. Our grandchildren will want to see this. Grandchildren. Marcus looked alarmed. Let's maybe start with the wedding. Fine, but I'm planning it. Elena, you have terrible taste in decorations. I've seen your office. Let me handle the aesthetic elements. Deal. They walked back toward the street, arms around each other, laughing at Maya's increasingly elaborate wedding plans. The city sprawled around them, indifferent to their joy. But Elena didn't mind. She'd spent too many years caring what the world thought. Tonight, the only opinions that mattered were right beside her. At the curb, Marcus flagged a cab. Where to? The driver asked. Marcus looked at Elena. Home. Home, she agreed. But as they climbed into the cab, Elena paused. She looked back at Lincoln Center, at the fountain courtyard, at the place where Marcus had once lost everything, and tonight had reclaimed it all. Thank you, she whispered. Not to Marcus, not to Maya, but to something larger. To fate or chance or whatever force had led a broken woman to an empty lobby at midnight and placed a broken man at her father's piano. What was that? Marcus asked. Nothing, just saying goodbye. To what? Elena settled into the seat beside him, Maya already chattering about the wedding on his other side. To who I used to be. The cab pulled away from the curb, carrying them toward their future. Behind them, Lincoln Center's lights blazed against the dark sky, a beacon for dreamers and artists, and everyone who had ever been told they weren't good enough. Elena knew with absolute certainty that she would return here many times. For Marcus's concerts, for Maya's performances, for events and galas, and all the professional obligations that came with her position. But she would always remember this night, the night everything became possible. Play Beethoven and you're mine, she had said all those months ago. He had played Beethoven, and Chopin, and Debussy, and a piece called Second Chances that had brought 2,000 people to their feet. And yes, he was hers. Not because of a dare or a deal or any kind of transaction. He was hers because he had chosen her despite everything that stood between them. She was his because she had finally learned what her father never could, that love wasn't a weakness to be exploited, but a strength to be embraced. The cab moved through the city streets, past homeless people huddled in doorways, and couples walking hand in hand, past late-night diners and early morning workers, past all the ordinary moments that made up a life. Maya fell asleep against Marcus's shoulder, exhausted by the excitement of the evening. Marcus held Elena's hand, his thumb tracing circles on her palm. "Penny for your thoughts," he murmured. "I was thinking about my father, about what he would say if he could see us now." Nothing good, probably. Probably not, but that's okay. Elena smiled. He was wrong about a lot of things. About you, about music, about what matters in life. I spent 30 years believing his version of the truth. I'm done with that now. What's your version? Elena looked at Marcus at Maya sleeping peacefully at the city lights streaming past the window. That second chances are real. That love is stronger than fear. That the broken pieces of our lives can become something beautiful if we're brave enough to put them together differently. Marcus lifted her hand to his lips and kissed it. I like your version better. Me too. The cab turned onto a familiar street approaching Lakeside. Elena's house, soon to be their house, glowed warmly in the darkness. A home waiting to be filled with music and laughter, and the kind of family she'd never dared to dream of. We're here, the driver announced. Marcus paid, then gently woke Maya. The girl stumbled out of the cab, half asleep, mumbling something about wedding colors. They walked up the path together, three people bound by circumstance and choice, and something that felt very much like destiny. At the door, Elena paused with her key in the lock. Ready? She asked. Marcus smiled, that rare full smile that transformed his face and made her heart skip. I've been ready my whole life. I just didn't know it until you. She opened the door and they stepped inside, leaving the cold night behind them. In the living room, her father's Bosendorfer waited silent and patient. Tomorrow, Marcus would sit at that bench and play. Maya would practice her cello in the corner. Elena would work at her desk occasionally, looking up to watch them to remind herself that this was real. But tonight, they simply stood together in the foyer, holding hands, breathing the same air, knowing that everything had changed, and nothing would ever be the same. And that was exactly as it should be. Because some stories don't end with a victory, or a wedding, or a triumphant concert. Some stories end with a quiet moment in a warm house, with the people you love beside you, with the knowledge that whatever comes next, you won't face it alone. Elena Sterling had spent 44 years building walls. Marcus Williams had spent 20 years hiding behind them. Maya Williams had spent her whole young life fighting just to survive. Tonight, the walls came down. The hiding ended. The fight was finally won. Not because of money or power or professional success, because three people had found the courage to let each other in. And that, Elena realized, was the only ending that mattered. She looked at Marcus, at Maya, at the life waiting to unfold before them. "Welcome home," she said. Marcus pulled her close and whispered the words that made everything true. "I'm already there." Some people spend their whole lives searching for where they belong. Elena had stopped searching the night a security guard played Beethoven on her father's piano and reminded her what music was really for. Not for fame, not for fortune, not for legacy or ambition or proving yourself to people who would never be satisfied. Music was for this, for connection, for healing, for turning strangers into family and second chances into forever. The night janitor had taught her that. And Elena Sterling, CEO, billionaire, broken daughter of a broken man, had finally learned.